the DevOps upskill program from TechnoTree. And for quite a few of you, you might have heard about what DevOps is all about. So this program, what our next 30 minutes is going to serve as a little induction to DevOps, as well as an overview of what TechnoTree is offering you as part of this program. Without waiting too much, let's get into this. So first, to understand this, let's understand what DevOps is all about, because we are inquisitive, we are enrolling into this, and we potentially might have a career starting very quickly on this for all of you. So to understand what DevOps is, let's begin by understanding what development is, what operations is. And since most of you have enrolled to this program, I believe you have some exposure. Some of you might be fresh out of college. Some of you have a couple of experience in the industry. Now, we typically have development teams whose role is to get the requirements, do the planning for it, do the design for it, develop it, build it, and then send it across for deployment. So this development team actually does a whole bunch of activities, starting from taking into the requirements, identifying what are the requirements all about. Then they do the designing of it. And when it comes to the development of it, there are multiple models that they can go through. The development can be done all through in one go and then sent to the market, which means to say that nobody ever gets to see what's developed, all right? And in some places, they might be developing iteratively. So small chunks of work, it is actually developed and sent to the market. Now, in the process of doing this, you know that there is a team which is actually doing this development. Now you should envision that, hey, if somebody is doing my development, probably there is a team or a few bunch of individuals who's going to test my product before it goes to the customers, right? So let's see this problem which we all face here, right? The development team is actually doing development in a given environment. And it says, when I'm done, let me say I'm done with a logical module, which is ready to be tested. I hand it over to the next team, which probably is a testing team. The first issue comes here. The testing team takes whatever has been given to me and then tries to install it in their environment. You will see that there is an issue. Why? The configurations are different. The software versions which were specifically requested for that environment is different. So there's already a problem where testing team or the tester is unable to reproduce the build on their environment. And they say, hey, this build just doesn't work for me. But then the dev guy says, hey, you know what? It works for me, right? So this is a classic problem. It's been decades, right? And this problem still exists in a whole lot of our environment, whole lot of our companies. Now you can imagine that somehow they manage it, all right? And then there is the final person who is the operations person who is actually going to take it and deploy it in the customer environment, in an environment which people or the end customer is going to consume it, all right? Now this person, at least the dev and the testing to some extent, they were involved in the process of developing this software all the way till deploying it, right? But imagine this operations team who is mostly customer focused, but they're going to get the outcomes from the dev team and the testing team so that they can deploy it onto the customer environment. They don't know what the architecture was. They don't know how the build was done. They don't know the interfaces which the development and testing teams use. It's going to be a nightmare for them even before standing up this application on an environment. So this problem is pretty large. If an operations personnel cannot understand how the software works, imagine how would they be able to deploy it across all of the customers. And my dear friends, when I say operation team, it's not about one or two systems that they are going to deploy the software into. The software could be deployed into hundreds and thousands of end systems and customers. It could be SaaS based, all right? It could be a hosted software. So there are multiple flavors on how the operations work. Now, this is a classic problem which has been existed. So what did we see in the last few minutes of our discussion? There are different teams. They are using different environments. There's no good coordination. We lose a lot of time, which means a lot of delay in delivering the software. So there's no smooth flow from one place to another. And also, there are delays in feedback loop, if you see that. This is just about how deployment goes through, but there's a challenge in the feedback loop itself. When tester is doing the testing, they find defects. Now that has to be fed back into the developer. When operations team is trying to deploy, they'll find challenges and they will tell the development team saying that, hey, you know what, this is not working, you need to fix something. So that has to be fixed by the development. So the entire chain of communication from dev to test to operations, all of this has to be running smoothly without any hurdles or any interruptions if the software has to be clearly deployed. Now you saw the number of delays which can potentially impact all of us while doing this, right? And the last one is the coordination, the communication. These teams in many places work in silos. What do I mean by silos? The development is worried about getting the job done based on the requirement and pushing it over to another team, that is the testing. And let me say the testing is just worried about testing that piece of software and then pushing it out. Somebody from the release team will push it out in the operations. You saw there is no one team concept here. It's like dev team, test team, operations team. This was the problem which we all faced. And we wanted to come out of all of these. And DevOps came as a classic solution to us, as a blessing to us. All right? Now, DevOps, moment I said DevOps, what comes in your mind? A set of tools, high demand in the market. People with DevOps skills are highly desired in the market today, right? You don't get people who are really skilled. Every company needs people who are skilled in DevOps, all right? So this is a cultural impact there. How we do our development, how do we do our testing, how do we do our operations, how do we communicate, right? It's a cultural shift. It's the way we see the entire development paradigm here. And it's a lot of principles and discipline involved in this process. It's a way of working which helps us actually deliver things to our customers. Now you could see here saying that, hey, you know, there is development, there is operations. Now you see this sign, the symbol is infinity symbol. It goes on a continuous operations base. So now let's understand a little bit about, hey, why do I need DevOps actually if I am able to just talk to each other, right? Imagine if you've already been working in a company, you are already doing some builds, you're delivering it to somebody and so on. You can imagine the time it takes to do one build. In some of the companies which I have worked for, there are times where we have taken more than a week to set up the build. And as we progress, it takes them about a day to set up the build. Of course, these are like pretty large software systems. But imagine you're working in a SaaS-based company, an e-com company. You can't afford to have one build per day. There are places where one build per day is okay, but that's not the world we live anymore. A decade back, it was okay, but today, most of the companies need frequent builds, frequent deployment. That's how everybody is going forward. And imagine the type of errors which can creep in when you're moving at that speed, right? So how do I cast it, communicate that, deliver it back to the development team, to the DevOps team, right? There should be a pipeline somewhere, correct? Any guess on what is typically the number of builds and deployment in a company like AWS or, you know, Netflix and stuff like that? You'll be surprised that we have over 1,000 builds and deployments per day. Per day of development, they're able to release so many times, deploy so many times in their production environment. Imagine some of us, when we say, hey, you know what, I have to deploy something in the production environment, we are like so worried. It's because it's change, it can break things. Now there are companies who are doing it over 1,000 times per day. And that's efficiency here, right? And that's possible because of DevOps, right? So let's see the different aspects of DevOps itself. Now, I believe you understand as to why DevOps, because there were problems which existing, there is speed issues, communication issues, delivery issues. DevOps is not just about building a pipeline. It's not like once I build a pipeline. There are multiple things which contribute into this. To the right over here, you will see a little pictorial representation, which is very well done here. Things start from the planning phase, planning state here, right? And then from planning, what are the tools that you need? Some of the tools that we might need here are, simple things like smart sheets for project planning, Jira software for tracking, capturing the requirements, defects, and so on. Then you come to the coding phase. In the coding phase, you might need the Git, the tools that you develop, the Confluence, the Jira, the Bitbuckets, and also your integrated development environment. We call it as an IDE. Then you come to the build. So once you're done with the build coding, you come to the build, right? But what happens during the build? During the build, all the code comes together and there is one executable which is formed, and we use tools like Jenkins and Maven and so on. Once we build, we send it to the testing. Once we do the testing, we send it to a release. After that, it goes to deploy, operating, or it goes to operations and comes to monitoring. And as you see, at every place, we see there is a tool associated to this. For example, at the place of deploy, you see Ansible, Terraform. At the place of operations, you see Dockerization coming in play. When it comes to monitoring, there are multiple tools to monitor: Splunk, Nagios, Grafana, right? So all of these tools work in tandem. May I request all of you to go on mute, please? There are probably some of us who are not on mute. Thank you. So once we have all of these, this is a bird's eye view of what we need as a DevOps engineer to make it seamless. People call CI, CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery / continuous deployment. This is what it is all about, starting from my planning all the way till my deployment, operations, and monitoring. You can imagine, today, I'm sure all of us have done some online purchasing, right? You're doing an online purchasing using AWS or Flipkart or any of these software. There's a platform there, you log in and you start purchasing. And in the back end, there are multiple microservices running for everything that you're doing, starting from showing you the menu, giving you the options that you like, catching up your preferences, displaying the right ads to you, giving the right discounts to you, enabling your checkout, ultimately ensuring that it gets delivered to you. There's seamless experience which goes into this. What's happening behind? It's run by the software, right? And they have to be monitoring what goes wrong. So monitoring, the so-called SRE is a big concept which is so closely related to DevOps, because if you can't monitor, you have to trap the errors much before the customer sees it, right? So these are a couple of tools which we use for a DevOps. And now you can imagine, hey, you know what? Why is a DevOps engineer so much in demand? Because this is not easy job. You need the right orientation for it. So what are skills, some of the skills required for a person to be a good DevOps engineer? Because everybody knows that, you know what, DevOps is in great demand, but what does it require to be a good DevOps engineer? Things which are elementary and things that you should know. I'm not in any way saying that you must be a master or an expert in all of these, because as you see here, do not get overwhelmed. It does not mean that you got to be masters in all of these. None. I have about 2.5 decades of experience in this field, but I'm not a master in all of these. You got to know how this all functions together. You got to be able to go to the right people and speak, saying that, hey, this is something which I need. Can we do this? Can we do the right integration and so on? So please do not get overwhelmed thinking that you got to be masters in all of this. But you need to know about all of these to be a good, successful DevOps engineer. Things like you can start with some fundamentals about the operating systems itself, the cloud technologies, automation skills, the testing and security skills, monitoring skills, containerization. For you, it's about knowing the big picture, a bird's eye view of everything that's happening in your software development all the way till your release, deployment, monitoring, and establishing the feedback loop. If you pick any software engineer in your company, they would probably be able to tell only parts of it. They know, oh, I know only to do this part of the development. I know only to do this part of the testing and so on. But catch in, set up a discussion with your DevOps engineer and ask him or her to explain the entire process. They will be able to do it with ease. They'll be able to do this with grace and ease in saying that, hey, this is where we start, this is where we release, this is where we monitor, and the feedback loop goes back to the developer like this. All right? Now that's DevOps as an executive summary for you. All right? Now, largely, what did we speak about? It's the process of how we do the development, how we do the integration, how we do the monitoring and feedback, how we do continuous delivery and deployment. That's what we saw. But doing it seamlessly, building the pipelines, ensuring that it is automated, that is error-free, you don't have manual interference, manual dependency, that's important as part of this whole chunk, right? So some of the DevOps tools that you will cover as part of this program is Git, Jira, Jenkins, Terraform, Docker, Kubernetes, Prometheus, and GitHub. Apart from that, you'll also get an exposure to some of our cloud platform. All right. And we have a large set of partners who work with us very closely with us. We are having people in all of these companies, starting from you can see the big list of companies here, right? I mean, it can be like a product organization. It could be a SaaS-based organization. It could be Accenture, Wipro, a financial corporation or organization. You can see healthcare organizations. So practically, the skills is required everywhere, and the partnership that we have is quite at a scalable level, right? Now, coming to the Technotree itself, why Technotree, right? I'm just going to help you understand why Technotree in like the next 5 minutes. Typically, this course, this program comes with a job assurance. This is very, very, very important. You can pay a higher price in any other company. There are multiple institutes which are actually doing this program today, simply because, yes, we have demand and a lot of them wants to have their share in the pie. But what is so unique about this program? The program is an integrated course, starting from training you, mentoring you, giving you the right projects which are required, live projects and real-time projects which are used in the organization, preparing you for the interview. And that's why I actually paused and said, this comes with job assurance. All right. The team here, Kishore and team, has been doing a fabulous job, and I've seen them grow a lot, primarily because they have been very successful in enabling the people who do the course to actually get into the jobs. And that's a big thing here, right? And we all know we can all do our graduations, we can all do our certifications, but ultimately for us to get into the interview, to get groomed into what does the DevOps interview look like? I don't know. I know how to do this Git. I know how to do this Dockerization. I have no clue on how the interview goes on. And that's the mentoring that you get here. And apart from the mentoring, you get a lot of leads straight away into the interview. And that's the most unique selling point of this program, right? So let me walk you through a very high level. If you're wondering, saying that, hey, you know what, I've actually come and I plan to register, or I've already registered here, am I the right candidate? Typically, if you have some graduation around and you have some IT skills, you're up and ready to go here. This is for people who probably are just saying, hey, I'm a fresher, can I start it? Absolutely, yes. There are individuals over here who would say that, you know what, I already have about 4 to 5 years of experience. I now want to transition in my career path into DevOps. Is that possible? Absolutely, yes. So-called as the career switch over here. Right? And for those of us who already have the skills, know some things about DevOps, this is going to be an awesome platform for you to gain knowledge and have a blitz scaling from here. Right? So the program highlights, right? This is like a 70 hours of live instructor-led. Somebody is there to explain to you, take you through the examples, work with you online. You have on-demand learning. You have guided hands-on exercises. You have a lot of assessments, practice assessments, projects, graded capstone projects, industry-based mini projects. Finally, you are taken to the mock interviews and the feedback session, practically preparing you through how should you tweak, how should you write a good resume for DevOps, how should you prepare yourself, what are the questions you should be focusing on, and so on, right? So I think most of you are eligible here because you should just be having a bachelor's degree, and all other graduates are, in any graduation should be able to start here. All right, this is just an overview for giving you a glimpse about what a DevOps typical package looks like. And I would say that as you grow, your salaries are much higher. I have not, at times there have been like, a team saying that, hey, you know what, I'm just not able to hire an engineer on DevOps, a senior engineer in DevOps, primarily not because of the skills or anything, I'm not able to match their salary. So the salaries are quite high in the industry today. All right. So I'll leave you at this, and I'll quickly take you through the overall syllabus itself very quickly. But if you have any questions, please hold it to the end and we can actually take on those. So you'll have an introduction to DevOps process. You'll have the basics on networking and cloud services. You have Linux foundations, the basic commands that you need, the basic knowledge that you need on Linux or Unix. You have some scripting. Automation is an essential skill for every DevOps engineer. You have something around version control. Most of the DevOps actually starts with the basics of what is a version control, what is and what is Git. All right. You have Maven. So how does the build get done? How do I baseline software? There are 100 developers doing the development. Each one of them are doing their development. How does all their code come together? How do I make a single build? How do I deliver it as one single executable, right? How do I automate all of these? Then comes your continuous integration and continuous development. How do I ensure that this is a repetitive task such that there is no manual interference? How do I ensure that I catch errors in the entire CI/CD pipeline such that it is fed back and fixed? Docker. Containerization and Dockers are the most in-demand skills today, and Dockers are covered in this topic along with all the skills that you need. This is an essential topic for you. Terraform. This is also talks to you about, hey, you know what? I need to set up an environment. How do I set up things? Now, are you going to install OS? Are you going to put up all the applications, put up the libraries and binaries which are required there? Or would you want your environment to be set up on the click of a button? Let's call it as infrastructure as code. How do you do configuration management? Right? So ultimately, how do we do the orchestration of everything that we have put together? There are multiple servers. How do I do load balancing? How do I set up security? As you learn the DevOps, there is an element which is so important in today's organizations, that is security. And good part over here is this course also gives you security, and along with many other details that is required for DevOps, like reporting and analysis. This is called as DevSecOps. You can browse about DevSecOps, This is the most in-demand skill today because everybody wants security embedded into everything that we are doing. And you get a good understanding of this in DevSecOps. Ultimately, without the right eyes and ears, you do not know where to catch the errors. You also get logging and monitoring. Okay? You will be mostly in an administrator role in many of the places, so you should understand, hey, how do I set permissions, privileges, policies, all right? And ultimately, you need to know something about the cloud services, the cloud platform like AWS, Azure, and GCP. So I'll pause here, my friends. This is a bird's eye view of what DevOps is all about. Why do we need DevOps? Why are you so lucky that you're getting into a program over here? And what is the unique selling point of this program? How are you going to be guided through the entire course in your journey of this DevOps course? All right. Thank you so much for your patience, my friends. You sure? If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Yeah. Guys, any questions, please?
Yeah, hi Manjunath. Hey, thank you. Nice session. I just want to know a comment about, see, now recently you've been hearing, right, about generative AI, chat GPT, these things, right? Where do you think this can optimize the current DevOps process, or can you talk about it a bit?
See, there are mainstreams of AI, big data, security, and so on. All of this feeds in together. AI, for example, actually is an interface that you always need. Irrespective of what we are going to do, you always need some AI, you always need some machine learning. A flavor of that is always required in anything that we do here. All right? But what we do here, you don't need that level of AI specific way of intelligence here. If you browse today about is AI going to throw away DevOps engineer, the answer would be no, because that's a different way of doing things. Because this is a planned sequence of doing things, predictable way of doing things, so that you do not have surprises in it. Right? Do we have something around a flavor of machine learning? Absolutely, yes. The reason being, as and when you catch errors, the monitoring and logging is going to feed you back multiple things into the system. All right. So you're going to go fix that. You're going to enable it. Otherwise, there will be like, a team of DevOps engineers who are like 10 people just doing this job, 10 people doing this monitoring all the time. And that's not what we want. So a flavor of that is seen here. The security is so important. We can't, it's so less. Yeah, I can emphasize that for the entire day, right? And that's why you see the DevSecOps coming in play here. Hope that helps, sir. Yes, there is a flavor of everything that we are seeing as the latest trends in the industry, but not be in a magnitude of what you might necessarily see, because it might not be required as such.
I mean, were you a part of any recent plans of implementing AI into any component or any experience with any recent?
AI component is used from the customer per se. All right. Why would you need AI? I mean, think about it. Moment we see technology, the first question I would ask is, what is that which I'm doing where I'm unable to do things? Correct? If you look into AI, why would I need that? If you go to any of the website, you need a personal assistant there when nobody is monitoring it. And let me say you log into a website called Technotree. And you might be logging in at hours where nobody is there to answer for you. Do you need somebody who is actually ready to answer to you? You might need a technology like AI there, right? But how about DevOps? I've already set that up for 24/7, automated for you. If I need something around it, maybe that is when I'll actually use the chat box for you. Are there specific questions which you might need around my product and the project, which is customer facing? I would love to have an AI. And that's the place where you need this one. You saw the difference on how? Yes, yeah. But at the right timing and the right places.
Yeah. So basically, right. See, overall, where can we optimize the cost, or where can we optimize the resources, right, that are being deployed and all these things. Yeah, thanks, Manju.
Pleasure. Any other questions? Any of you, please? And most of the places which we have seen here is for 30 seconds, we don't see any questions. It probably means that we are not going to get any questions, but you might have questions in your mind lingering saying that, you know what, I missed this point. I wanted to ask this person as to what about this and what about that. Feel free to write back to us and we'll promptly get back to you as early as possible. All right. I'll wait for a couple of 10 seconds and we could say we're good there then.
Sir, myself is Govindra, sir.
Yes, please tell me, sir.
Sir, actually, I am working as a system engineer, sir.
Yeah.
I have experience in more than 7 years in education institute, sir. I am working in Acharya Institute of Technology as IT department.
Okay.
So this, I don't know coding. I can learn this course, sir.
Absolutely, yes.
I
You
know, sir.
saw the foundation of this course equips you with everything that you need to do as part of your coding. It's mostly for automation. When I say DevOps course, there is a little bit of automation there. Don't get overwhelmed with the fact that you need to be a full-time developer. I never started as a developer.
Oh.
Okay?
Actually, I am handling in servers, networking, and AWS servers, sir. But this one DevOps, no, sir. How to switching? That's what I call it, sir.
I'll tell you one example of what you probably are doing. So as part of your work, you're managing the IT,
Yes,
you're managing the systems, the overall infrastructure, all right?
Yes,
and
yes,
there are a couple of manual activities that you're doing in and out, correct?
Yes,
There have been times where you wrote a little shell script or a bash script or a Unix set of Unix commands.
Yes, sir.
That's all is required to get you kick-started onto this.
Okay.
Once you get kick-started from there on, that's where you see the Linux foundations coming in play there, scripting coming in play there. As you move towards each of the tools, you will be equipped and taught as to how to do this. So the practical projects that you're going to do, the assignments that you're going to do is going to equip you for that. Good question on this. You do not need to be a software developer to be a good DevOps engineer. The skills will be acquired as part of this training and you can practice it further.
Thank you,
What's important for you to understand the bigger ecosystem, understand how things are connected, and then you should be able to do this with grace and ease.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good question. Anybody else?
Guys, do you have any other doubts or anything related to technical aspects as well as course in part? Please be asked that. So we are feel free to explain you on this.
All right.
Sir, I think they're good to go.
Yeah, I think we are good to go. Team, thank you so much for taking time today to join us here. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll be very glad to help you there. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Manjuna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.